Yeah.
This meeting is now open. We will first have an invocation, and then we'll go into approving the agenda for tonight, and then we'll start with our first delegate, Sparrow's Nest. Mr. Commissioner Dickinson, can you do the invocation?
Yeah, I think we can hear you. You may want to turn it up a bit, or can we turn him up? Yeah, you kind of low.
As loud as I can get.
Okay.
All right.
Say something.
Can you hear me? Is
Yes,
that better?
yes,
Okay.
all right.
Father God, we thank you for this time in the season, and we thank you for this great commissions and the Brunswick Housing Authority, all our staff, and our residents, our community. We pray that we come to accomplish what we need to do today. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Our first delegate is Sparrow's Nest, Ms. Slade.
Hi. Tab is going to talk for just a second first. He's our Director of Operations, and then I'll follow in with a
Okay.
few comments on Sparrow's Nest.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As Saber said, my name is Tad Miller. I'm Director of Operations for FaithWorks, and I'm fairly sure that most of you know the aspect of Sparrow's Nest that serves as the food bank. But I just want to mention a couple other things that happen at Sparrow's Nest so that you are aware. First of all, I want to thank this board for the partnership that we've had for several years. Sparrow's Nest really serves as our base of operations. It is where most of our administrative staff out of. We have 6 employees that staff out of Sparrow's Nest, and that serves our Cancer Network of Hope, Sparrow's Nest, and our Open Doors programs. I mentioned Cancer Network. It is also the place where a lot of case management will happen for people in need, and it is also our base of operations for our volunteers. In 2022, we had 105 active volunteers from this community, and they donated 8,100 hours to our community. 70% of that happened at Sparrow's Nest itself. A lot of people will come in, they'll apply to volunteer with us, they'll meet with us at Sparrow's Nest, they'll get a tour, and then we'll walk through all of what FaithWorks does to find placement for them, and they become active throughout the year. I think in 2022 we had around 25 new volunteers to our 105 volunteers. During the summer, we have about 140 mission volunteers that come in from outside of this community, and they'll come in and work a lot of times, most of the times, doing repair work and yard work. And when I say yard work, I don't mean just cutting grass. I mean doing major work in yards for people who are either too ill to work, a lot of our Cancer Network people, or they're elderly, so they'll be working on things like building ramps and things like that for these people. But really it is the central hub where a lot of work gets done, and we are very appreciative. And then Sabra is going to tell you more about what happens at Sparrow's Nest itself.
Thank you.
Good evening. My
Good
name is
evening.
Saber Slate, and I'm the manager of the Sparrow's Nest. I've been there about 4 years. And first I'd like to say thank you guys for the space you've leased to us for this time. We are strictly funded by the community, churches, civic groups, individuals. We have no state funding. So everything that happens in that building is because of the community and what they provide to us. We are a food pantry mainly, and then secondarily we provide emergency assistance, financial, to individuals. We're open Monday to Thursday from 9 to 12 for groceries in the morning, and then we accept donations and do some more case management in the afternoons until 4. We serve 550 to 600 families each month. The majority of those are right downtown Brunswick. In 2022, about 25% of those lived in public housing. And I have some more numbers just to kind of give you an idea of 2022. Guests can come one time a month. They provide an ID, we check them in, we have a database system, we know exactly when they've come, where they live, their phone number, their address, their date of birth, their children, and then we log the food that we give them each month to where next month we know what we've given them or if they're too early. We provide food for basically 3 to 5 days of food. Also personal hygiene items, that's also diapers and formula and things for babies. We make bags specific for meals, like a chicken and rice meal, a chicken spaghetti bag, to where they have a meal they can take home. They're given frozen meat, which is 3 to 4 pounds of meat each time they come. And then we get donations, 80% of the donations come from the community. We also receive some monetary donations that we purchase food from Second Harvest and grocery stores. We also get donations from Winn-Dixie and Publix and the Baby Walmart and those kind of things that supplement what we give. We also provide, we really love our kids, so we provide a special bag for them with after-school snacks. A lot of the elementary schools will donate books, and so we have books and we divvy them up age appropriately and hand those out to the kids. Sometimes we get treats from Target or whatever, so we try to take care of the little ones. And I would say the biggest thing as far as the food side we've seen is a huge increase from June of 22 to now. And my estimation is obviously inflation. Secondarily, rent increases across the community, which means you don't have quite as much money to spend on food or your utility bills. And then thirdly, many of our guests are on food stamps and they were receiving a COVID bump during COVID. That expired in June of 22. And we saw numbers skyrocket. We were seeing 350 families a month and now we see 550 to 600. And that has sustained through this year. In 2022, we gave out about 211,000 pounds of food, which equates to about $214,000. This year, those numbers have stayed steady. We serve about 555 families a month, and about 15 to 25% of those live in public housing, depending on the month. Some guests come to us one time, some guests come to us every month. We serve about 818 children a month and about 250 seniors a month. And year to date, we've given out about 95,000 pounds of food. So that's kind of the food side of it, and that is all. I'm the only staff person. That is all run by volunteers. I have about 10 to 12 volunteers each day that come. Secondary to that, we also provide financial utility and prescription assistance for individuals. They can apply one time a year, and they have to have had a recent emergency that they can document. That could be you had to put brakes on your car, so now you can't pay your power bill, or you were hospitalized, or you had a baby and you had to stay home for 3 months. Those kind of things would be emergencies. And then we can help them with a power bill, a water bill, or a gas bill, or a prescription. Related to Brunswick housing guests, I would say the biggest thing we see is new guests moving in that have found that they have housing and they have 3 to 5 days to get their utilities in order. So we may pay a deposit for them. We might pay an old bill that they didn't know they had, to where now they can get utilities in their name. And in that tight time crunch, we're able to provide that in a quick manner. Many of our guests come to us, they've had a water leak, leaky toilet, something like that. Their bill is $1,000. And so we help to get them on a payment plan to avoid disruption, to where they're not evicted out of their residence. In 2022, we provided about $89,000 worth of assistance, and that helped about 452 families. And of those, 20% lived in public housing. Those numbers have been similar for 2023. We've served about 140 families, and we have given about $30,000 worth of assistance thus far. So that's kind of just a snapshot of what we do every day. I'm happy to answer y'all would like to come visit or take a tour or come while we're open, volunteer, we'd love to have you.
Have any questions?
What are the sources of your funding? Is it mostly church funding?
We receive a lot of church funding, individuals, and then sometimes we receive grants. Especially during COVID, we received grants through United Way. But the majority of our funding is church-related, civic-related, Rotary, those kind of organizations, or just individuals.
Is there a reason you all don't get state funding and you don't go after it? You don't feel like you qualify? Or what's the reason you don't go after it?
We, since I've been there, we haven't gone after it. I think my understanding is part of it is that we're faith-based, and some of the grants are difficult to obtain if you're a religious organization. Secondarily, we're a 501c3 under the United Methodist Church, and so I think that makes it more complicated for state funding. But I really have to ask our person who does the grants. I go after food-related grants. So, for example, I applied with the Latter-day Saint Church for a grant for food. They have a warehouse in Jacksonville. You can apply for funds. You receive those funds in kind, and then I can buy food from them. It's not real cash, but it's real food. And we were just granted $25,000 from them. So I have a year to use those funds to get food for the pantry.
How do you get it from them?
Well, I applied for the grant. There were multiple interviews about what we do, etc. And then they basically have just given me a grant letter saying you have $25,000 to spend. And so I placed an order, and I placed an order, and it was $5,000 last month. We go buy the food, and they just come and take it from our balance. It's not real.
So you have to pick it up, is what I mean.
Yes. I have a volunteer who takes our van. He goes down there and picks it up and brings it back.
Now, the United Methodist Church is going through a separation thing, so will that have any effect on your funding
Can you
that
speak
you
to
get
that
from them?
better than me? We get no funding from the United Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm.
We are just a DBA, a nonprofit
Doing business.
under the United
Okay.
501c3. I would say if I've not heard any issues with that happening. If that were the case and there was an issue, we would probably apply for our own 501c3.
That's correct. So the split, if the United Methodist Church, the United Methodist Church has not officially gone through any split. Another denomination has spun off the United Methodist Church. So the United Methodist Church, as an official entity, has not split. But even if it were to split, we would remain under the United Methodist Church unless it became problematic. And if so, then we would pursue. We've already spoken to lawyers, and we would just become an independent organization at that point, out from under them.
Okay.
And I will clarify, we're an ecumenical ministry. All the churches in the community support us.
Yeah, probably most of our volunteers come from outside the United Methodist Church rather than inside.
Majority.
So would we say, because since there's such a low percentage of families, while it's important that you all help in those families, but the low percentage of housing authority families that you actually serve, that we're in partnership with the larger community to provide this service because we're providing the space for you all to go. And it seems like 80% of the community, which I don't have a problem with at all. I just think the housing authority should be recognized that we're providing this space that benefits the entire community. It's
Yes.
not just our
Oh, absolutely.
families.
Absolutely, yes.
Even with the pantry and with the coupled with the utilities and the prescriptions as well. So,
Yes.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Pastor Kamayu,
Commissioner Dickinson, you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Dobson, can you hear us? you have any questions for Ms. Slay for Sparrow's Nest?
No, ma'am, not at this moment.
All right.
And I have some cards I'll leave with you if you have any questions later or want clarification.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
So, you all have a lease with Sparrow's Nest, and so part of the reason they're here is to update you all, and then, if you'd like to renew that lease, if you all will direct me to do that and working with Mr. Jackson.
And they paid all their expenditures up to date as of now. You seen that email
Yes, ma'am.
and everything like that, right? Okay.
Do we need a motion for that?
Do we need a motion to do that?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion?
Move to renew the lease with Sparrow's Nest. Is it 1 year?
1 year with any options.
Move to renew the lease with Sparrow's Nest for the next year.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. That motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. All right. Next up is the scholarship.
Thank y'all again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Of course, we had 3 applicants who will be receiving funding. Eddie is on the way here. He didn't even arrive. So he's en route now. But we have Ms. Jalen Jones, who will be attending Coastal College of Georgia. Hard-working young lady. I went to the school to visit her last week. She was working a part-time job. She's a hard worker. She works at the McDonald's on St. Simon. I think she looks familiar. That's why I see her. So I went to go present her certificate at the Brunswick High Honors Day. They had an emergency. The whole family had run up right before I came before. But I'm glad she's able to make it today. And you want to say a few words? Go forward.
Hi, y'all.
Hi.
I thank y'all so much, really need to be alive. I'm excited. I'm a little shy, I know it's
What was the requirements? Did you have to do an essay or anything?
yeah, I told my life story, Just
Can you give us a snippet of your essay that you wrote?
Since I was a little girl, me and my mom and my sisters, we've been in and out of, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's okay.
We've been in and out of my grandparents' house a lot. I didn't have a father figure too much. He was in and out my house, My mom, she's hard worker. And I was so thankful for him.
Change is on his way, baby. Got the scholarship.
And, she's always put us first no matter what. She always put our needs before our wants, for sure, But she made a way no matter what. She was surprised us with like small stuff from Walmart, like when we couldn't get it, and she'd come back like a week later. But I'm ready to provide her for the new life after this, and I'm definitely gonna show change. Gonna be a logistics manager.
Okay, all right.
Hopefully to get a job at the port, doing something like that. So I'm excited. I'm excited for change for real.
Yeah.
Eddie's on the way, so whenever he comes.
All right, we recognize that.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Did any of y'all take pictures and
No,
everything?
we're gonna do that now.
Okay.
I'll go ahead, because when Eddie come out, I'll let you all.
Okay. All right. Next. Oh, you're welcome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You got it, Kristen?
Next up, Ms. Hayes with Resident Council.
gave me that we're going to pursue both continue the Brooklyn Homes Resident Council and pursue a jurisdiction-wide council.
And eventually, we want every complex to have its own resident council, but we figure that's the only way to go further, faster at this point.
So hopefully we can take it up at our meeting in 2 weeks.
So is there any other necessary paperwork that y'all have to, continue to do after this MOU? Have y'all done your bylaws or anything yet?
Our bylaws were done before we even did our elections, because we had to have 20% of the people in our community to sign off on those. So
Okay.
they've already been done. However, we did notice that they need a few pages needed to be updated.
Okay.
So we're working on the updates. Our board is gonna vote those in, and that'll be done.
And you'll give a copy to Mr. Hartman, so we'll be aware of the update and have a copy of those, so we can go along with it as we go forward.
We're not quite sure about that. I know we're gonna do the updates, I know they'll be voted on, I know that we'll have them, but as far as turning over a copy, I know Vincent William, he has the original copy of our bylaws, so when we do update, we'll update through him. If he chooses to share, or wants to share, I'll leave that up to him.
Well, one of the things we're here for is to make sure that you are following the guidelines and the bylaws and the MOU. So it's our job to make sure that that operation is going smoothly. So that's why we will need a copy of it.
And if Vincent Williams has it,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll have it.
Mm-hmm. All right, anything else?
No, we just appreciate you for your time, and allowing us the opportunity, and we're hoping to get an update on this MOU possibly by the next workshop meeting, and we'll go from there.
And one of the things going forward, what we want to do is, since the annual report and the 5-year report is based on what we do as far as our day-to-day operations in housing authority, somewhere in the near future have a listing and do a check mark of what is being completed, what needs to be changed, and what needs to be eliminated. So when we go back and do the 5-year or the annual report through the RAB group of people that does it, then we'll know how far we done made changes, what we haven't done yet, and what still needs to be dealt with.
Eventually, we have that checklist, and we updated that not even 2 weeks ago. So,
Okay, as long as we have it by the time we do our next annual report and 5-year plan, that's fine.
and when is that?
Did we do it in June, July? I'm not sure. But as long as you have that list and we have that a continued update of it by the month, then we're on our scale of what we need to do by the time that report is.
So we'll just update that every month so that you have it.
And just follow your steps of how you, just follow your steps of the cleaning, whatever progress you're making, whatever progress needs more time, or what you need to complete the progress of what y'all doing in resident council through the unions or the residents, okay?
Understood.
How is resident council meetings going?
We have resorted to sometimes having to meet on Zoom because all of our members, like we have one that's out of town working. We have one that has been misplaced from Brooklyn Homes to Abbott Andrews due to a fire, and she doesn't know if she's coming back to Brooklyn or not. And I work a hectic schedule. And the other 2 ladies, one of them works down at the city, and so everybody's, their timing is just off. So we do make time to have those meetings on a monthly basis on a Zoom, and when we can meet in person, we do. As far as the community goes, we're opening up, starting next month, our meetings to all 6 communities so that they can see how our meetings go and they'll have something to go by when it's time for them to start their resident council. We're providing support for them, anybody that wants to start a residence council, walk them through step by step, but we can't do the work for them.
Right.
So we just do as much as we can. That's why we propose the jurisdiction-wide, and hopefully one person from each community can sit on that board. And so that's a spokesperson for that community, may it be a secretary, vice president, treasurer, so on.
And like, at the resident council meetings, if a resident has an issue with maintenance, are y'all doing follow-up to make sure that maintenance is getting completed or attended to?
We do, however, we find that as soon as, if they came for a maintenance issue, once that maintenance issue is, resolved, we
They don't
don't
come
see
back.
them anymore.
Well,
So
yeah.
we're
That
kinda
happens.
like, we kinda drag our feet and see how many meetings you're gonna show up to, but we do take them through the proper protocol. Have you put in a work order? Have you spoken with your site manager? Have you, did one online? Sometimes it works better if you do it online or make an email and tag a couple of people in it so that everybody is kinda like in shape.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming tonight and just keep us updated. Wait a minute, I'm gonna let you go. Yeah.
So, I just wanted, Ms. Hayes, if there was anything else that you wanted to share with us that we might be able to help with. I mean, I know this is proper protocol, the MOU and all the checklists and stuff. But if there anything else that you wanted to share with us that we might could help you all with.
Well, thank you, because we are working to secure the meeting location in Perry Place. I've talked to Mr. Bill, he's a wonderful person. He's working to talk to these people to see if the date and the time that we want will be acceptable. So a place to meet shouldn't be too much of an issue. And I know we're always welcome here as long as I ask ahead of time. The only thing that, moving forward, we might need help with, and we might just need to sit down with Ms. Dyer and whoever is gonna be responsible for our TP funds just for open homes. Because we will be working to do an event soon, to bring awareness to residents council. We want to invite the other communities in, have something there for the children, and maybe even, just some food or something. It just depends on what we can do. So once we establish how much we're gonna get, then we could decide on exactly what we do.
And so, we're gonna go back and look into it, that you go based on how many occupied units, you get so much money for each occupied unit.
The last time I checked, it was $10 and
15. It's like 15 to 21, the last time I
That's
said
what
it
I
was
thought.
15.
And then
Right,
when I
so-
just recently asked, they told me
Right.
10, so I was working on that. And I know right now we have,
Who
last
told
week
you
we
to?
had 88 units.
Yeah, it's never 10, I seen 15.
Right, that's what I found 15.
Who told you 10?
You don't throw them out there like that.
Well,
I was just
But it
curious.
came from the resident services department.
That's fine, I'm just
Okay.
saying, they may not be up on the information, that's why I was asking not to.
And the number of
chase that.
occupied units is not necessarily in the current time because we're funded on a calendar year basis for HUD. So what they dedicate for the resident council, the money you could use, it is in that annual, that calendar year, but it's based on the prior year, okay? Because the submission for operating subsidy is based on what you had in the previous year. So
So
it's
you only
not,
had
don't just do the
88
math in your head thinking,
this
it's the
year.
current
It's
Right.
whatever last
dismal
year's was.
right.
occupancy rate.
Is it a one-time amount that they get?
It is once per year. It is a part of the operating subsidy that we get every calendar year. And it's like a subset of that.
Okay.
So, and it's based on, the prior year's occupancy.
And they're free to partner with other organizations, to put on events there.
I can't, the last time we looked at this has been a while and I don't remember all the details honestly on what all
Yeah,
Okay,
all right.
can happen. Okay.
Ms.
I would be more than glad to partner with y'all with the Jobs Plus and do a kickoff. And we have funding in our grant for that specifically. And actually, the resident council would be an amazing partner with us because we will be hiring residents. So that will free up some of your funding to do other things.
And honey, and I know you know how to pull in other organizations that are supportive. So to make it a really nice event.
Absolutely.
And there are other organizations that have things that the families can benefit from. My church just did our Fifth Sunday outreach at Ahmaud Arbery Park, and we do it every Fifth Sunday. Probably have about 200 families come through course, there's hot dogs and hamburgers, but the services. One group, gave out the bikes to folk, and there were just all kinds of other things for the families. And we can have it right there at Brooklyn Homes.
So if by next meeting, if you have a time where you're available to sit and speak with us on the specifics of it, only thing in the MOU that might be a dispute that I can think of right now, it says in here that we can open up our own bank account for the Residents Council, and that wouldn't be for funds coming from the Brunswick Housing Authority. Of course, that would be kept in an account for you guys, and checks and balances. We'll have 3 people to sign off on what we need according to what we can do by HUD and the bylaws. But that separate account would go into if we decide to get a grant writer with the funds that we were awarded, then if we were to secure that grant, it would go into this account. Still 3 of our board members would have to sign off on it, and then we'd have to still go by the guidelines. But that's something kind of further down the line. But don't be afraid to sign just because of that. So we understand upfront that that's not funding coming from housing that'll go into our account for Brooklyn Homes Residents Council.
Yeah, I don't see how we would push back if we're trying to help you all be self-sufficient. And you being self-sufficient, that had to me would contradict what our mission is.
Sounds good. And if you guys could, last but not least, get us in touch with your grant writer to
When we get one.
Oh, we don't have one.
No, you just that's what you just got honey does.
Okay.
But I know some out in the community that I can absolutely get you in touch with.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. There's no more questions.
Any other questions, commissioners, for Ms. Hayes?
Have you guys put together a preliminary or final budget yet for how you would use the funds?
When we heard how small they were, because we thought we was looking at $880, we figured there was no reason to kind of do that. We would just plan off of that by, if we had to, pay a grant writer and, be able to secure more funding so we could do more things in the future. But that was something proposed when Mr. Baker was here, and without the MOU, a lot of people were like,
I understand.
Yeah, I would hold up and let us think through about you all having to pay somebody to write grants for you. Let us think through that part, because I don't think that is fair to you all.
No, I know somebody I think.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. And I guess the next time when I come before you, I'll be talking about us getting some leadership training and the classes that we went to for GARA. I don't think they kind of were what we were expecting, because everybody went into it knowing that we were working to start a resident council. And so when we got there, the classes that they were offering had nothing to do with leadership or resident council. And so maybe this year, maybe we can have some kind of input on classes that we would like to see.
Again, try to, and I mentioned this, I think, the one time I did meet with you before I knew I was going to be on this board. The Clients Council, see if that's still operating. It's up under the Georgia Legal Services, the state Georgia Legal Services. My mentor, Ms. Vita Cannon, started this years ago, and I don't know if it's still operating, but they are made up of housing authority tenants, and they provide leadership training and a number of other things. If not, legal services from the state level may be able to provide that, or facilitate you getting with the organization that does it. Okay, let me know, and I can help. Okay.
Commissioners, y'all have any more questions for Ms. Hayes?
Not for Ms. Hayes, but I do have one for everyone. So if we enter into this MOU, I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around how there are funds that are allocated for the RCs.
Well, the tenant participation funds, so prior to there being a resident council, Brunswick Housing just tell me if I'm wrong, was allocated to the participation funds that were spent on other tenant activities, if there's a resident council, which then those same dollars will now be allocated to resident councils for the resident council to decide how to spend those based on a funding formula for HUD.
And those are allocated based on occupancy.
Mhm.
And what happens if there is an agency-wide resident council as well?
And they're the same dollars,
So we would need to,
different units.
It's awarded to us by AMP, which Brooklyn Homes is an AMP two. Brooklyn,
Right.
Mercer, and ADA are AMP two. So everything that HUD is, your operating subsidy comes to you by AMP. So AMP one has this much, AMP two has that much, AMP three has that much. So if there was combine all three of them for an authority-wide, or I don't think it's that complicated. I mean, it depends. You have the authority-wide one because you want it to become 6 individual ones, which would be part of 3 units. Then, I mean, that's easy to work out once it gets in place. But, I mean, the money just comes in one.
right, I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around, if we sign an MOU and we're bound to provide the dollars to you all, and then an agency-wide resident council pops up, do we have to refund that? Or we need to fund that other one as well? Does that make sense?
Are you
We only
meaning
get
like there's
$1.
an overhead
Right.
one and then there's 3 separate ones? Is that what you're thinking?
Right. Which I think is kind of the angle that we're taking.
I thought they were just saying that when we get the jurisdiction live, they would allocate let us know how much the funding was. And all 6 communities have met together in one room, and we've discussed that we would disperse the funds 6 different ways. So each community had the same amount, because you have like McIntyre Court that has so many units versus Abbott Andrews that don't have that many. So to not make, so it doesn't be that even, we would just,
Yeah, I mean,
6 ways.
We do a lot of our expenses that way. Usually it's AMP-wide, but we do it on a prorated basis based on the number of units. So, AMP-1 is 37% of the total number of public housing units. AMP-2 is 34, AMP-3 is 29.
But I think you're saying you all have already decided that when we get to that point, the overall will get whatever the amount is.
Right.
And you all have decided that you're just gonna split it
among the 6 communities.
Right, right, but that's not for us to decide, you all have already decided.
Correct, that will be in the jurisdiction-wide bylaws. And,
And at that point, I think your question would be the Brooklyn funds would be still going to the jurisdictional and would stop going to because it's the same dollars, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's the same dollar.
Yeah, I guess that's pointedly my question is, I want to make sure we're not,
we would definitely want the Brooklyn Homes dollars as soon as we could get them, because it's also a way to ensure that the other communities jump on board and get active, because it will take 3 people from each community before they can spend any money. They have to have a treasurer, president, and a secretary to even sign off on spending those funds. So it's a way to get them active, and hey, they're over here, they have this, and they're spending money, and they're doing this in their area, and how can we do that? So it's a way to increase that participation that we've been begging for.
They're gonna have to see something happen,
Exactly.
something going on for them to say, hey, I wanna do that too and be a part of it.
That's
So
why our
we're going
MOU
that
is
way.
so important, and for them to, just see us being active and getting the reward.
And so-
being able to do those things.
Also, that can move over into the newsletter, so whatever is going on, Mr. Jackson can implement that, have a resident council corner, and just whatever is going on every month,
We
you can
just
post it
recently
in that
asked for that,
newsletter.
and I'm hoping to see that, because once the other communities say, hey, they have a residence council, a lot of them, if they haven't spoken with me personally or been to a recent workshop where I came out and let them know, they don't know, it wasn't advertised that we were officially established and recognized by the board. And so I think that would be a good idea as well.
And the other thing is, the welcome package. When residents move in new, there should be a pamphlet or a little index card of all the programs that they can be in tune to sign up for when they first come in. So they shouldn't have to look for it and search for it after they move in. It should be part of their welcome package. Okay.
So, Commissioner Cullen, did you get your
I
question answered?
got my answer to part one of my question.
Okay, we'll
Okay, what's
discuss
part?
this further. Okay.
What's part two?
There was one more thing I was going to add, if I remember this right, from a couple years ago when we first started talking about this. That money you get for HUD, that you can use for tenant participation or whatever, that's like, that's the minimum, I think. You can, as a housing authority,
Allocating that.
yes.
That was gonna be part two of my question. So we're talking about, y'all are getting $800.
It's not.
So let me ask you,
Basically peanuts, right? So if the board was presented, now I can't tell you what to do, but if the board was presented with a budget that laid out what you might do with funds in excess of that 800 whatever dollars, we would have something to make a decision on. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense to, after the MOU is signed, to get with my board and we discuss a budget and propose it to the board. But I'm gonna just let you know, everything within our budget is gonna be, grant writers, anything to make us incubator of making more money and having more fun, because that's the life of the resident council. That's gonna get people excited and involved.
and the other thing is this, resident council is separate, but you still have to have some kind of back and forth communications with the board, because we can also implement programs or events for y'all to take part in doing. It's a separate but together entity. You make what you want, and as long as it's underneath the HUD guidelines, then we can provide it. And so you have a line item of how much you think things are gonna cost. Now, my other question is this while we're on here. So if they have that, this is what we're doing. How does that $200 that we have that question about stipend every month? Remember that $200? Somewhere along the line, it was told to us that it goes to a commissioner, or how does that get dispersed to the resident council?
I'll answer it from what the mayor told me. He said that the $200 that the resident commissioner gets a month, that they should be participating and active with the resident council, and he didn't care if it was $25 or $15, but as long as they were contributing something to the resident council, it may be refreshments for the meeting or whatever. But from what the mayor said, that money is supposed to be allocated towards the resident council.
Well, what we'll take and consider what he said, but we want to go by what HUD says, and so soon we'll have someone to answer that question that comes from housing. So I'll have that answer for you.
And so when we move over to the jurisdiction-wide council, that's when everybody that sits on that board will receive their $200. Do we establish that?
Up to 200, we'll find out soon, because we're in the makings of making some changes, so we'll ask this person and we'll bring that information back to you. Okay? And so, are you able to come on our work session, agenda meetings?
I can come, but I'm training for a new position, so it requires me to be on a conference call at 9:30, and I have to be at the office to open the doors at 10:30.
Okay.
So I'm always here at 9 when I can come, so if I can't say something right then and get some feedback, I'm always having to go.
So during our work session agenda, we'll have you first, but if you can't attend, send someone on your board with the same information to deliver it to us, so anytime you're not.
I work to do that, but no one.
And we'll put you first during our work session agenda meeting. Okay. Commissioners, any other questions for Ms. Hayes? Commissioner Dickinson? Is he there?
No, I'm good.
All right. Commissioner Dobson? All right, and we'll look over the MOU and we'll have them tell you how to get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My email's at the top if anybody needs to contact me if you can't get me back home.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your evening.
You have a blessed one. Bye, handsome. All right.
Take over.
Yeah.
All right, we will move to old business and the approval of these minutes.
I think we may have an additional scholarship recipient.
Oh, okay, well, let's do them first.
Okay, this is Edwin James, effectively known as Big Eddie. Eddie received $2,500 bond in Glamour, and he also received $1,000 from the Guard Scholarship. He too was working. He was on the clock. Forgot about it. He got here. He works at Winn-Dixie in the Plaza. Everybody see him, Big Eddie. So he'll be going to Nebraska, Purdue State. This fall.
You play it.
Oh yeah,
And where do you go to?
like he goes to play football.
You went to jail. I'm not gonna hold that against you. Yeah, my wife was a terrorist. But yeah, congratulations.
Besides football, what do you study?
Teacher.
What do you want to teach?
Teach history.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Man, you write your ticket with that. I'm telling you.
That is awesome. Being positive role models. That is awesome.
Get some warm clothes because Nebraska's cold.
At least you won't have to do what the King Seals anymore.
So Eddie won the Golden Rule scholarship too. That's throughout the county, and community school scholarship. Yeah, right, he's been on tour.
On the roll.
Everybody loves Big Eddie. He took over the whole convention center when they announced him.
Are you excited?
Oh yeah, I'm really excited.
Good.
Yeah.
We're happy for you. Congratulations. Maybe we'll get to see you on TV.
Probably.
All right.
Good deal.
Congratulations.
Thank you for
Well
coming.
done.
I didn't get his picture.
All right.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Booker, I didn't know you were retiring.
Yes, I am. And all my sons were pirates too. And my wife tried to prevent that. But she was a real terror, played for Miss Adams.
Okay.
Yes. So, okay, old business. Approval of the minutes from a regular meeting held on April the 24th, 2023. We doing these individually or all together?
I'd be prepared to make a motion to approve all of them. I don't think we had any corrections. Or I didn't see any corrections.
Yeah, we can do it. I'll entertain the motion for the approval of all of these, all the minutes, with any necessary corrections.
I move to approve the minutes of all of the Housing Authority City of Brunswick meetings held on April 24th, May 3rd, and May 10th of 2023.
Is there a second?
I second.
I second.
All right, item 5 has been properly motioned and second, be approved as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Dobson, can you hear us? Hello?
First I'm here,
Yes, are you,
I had to keep my phone off the mute.
okay, are you okay with the approval of the minutes as presented?
I agree.
All right. Opposers have the same opportunity. That passes unanimously. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, next up, financial reports. Ms.
Mr. Hartman sent out an email about KPAC, and I just wanted to give everybody the first thing he asked in the email, which was how much have we paid KPAC in the last year. And so roughly we've paid the city of Brunswick $120,000 in the past year for KPAC. That's with one dedicated officer and rotating people doing overtime. So that's just an FYI for everybody, but I also wanted to point out that the current MOU we have with the city for the officers that expires at the end of June. So, and typically in the past, so I don't, I have no idea what anyone's plans are, but typically in the past, I don't think it was anymore because obviously this agreement hadn't been updated in a long time because it still said that it was funded by capital funds, which it wasn't. It hasn't been for the whole time I've been here and even longer. I think it used to be a grant way back then. But it hadn't been updated, so I think it was just an exchange of emails between the city and Housing Authority. Just to sign it, scan it, sign it back and forth, and then it was up for another year.
So those contracts, they don't go through Ben's office for update? I know you may not, you don't have to worry about that, but it seems like he should be getting that.
I don't know what the process was really, because it was between Andy and whoever, but, like I said, this actual contract was so old, I'm assuming initially.
I probably did the one back when it started and didn't do after that.
The HUD report mentioned phones, phone lines, everything like that. So how many shift changes are there for officer? And you're saying there's two now? There's one now.
As far as I know, there's one officer, and then people just sign up for overtime. City officers sign up if they want to volunteer to be a KPAC officer, and we pay them. It's overtime to them.
Okay.
And we pay that. That was agreed on years back when we were down to like one officer and the city couldn't hire enough officers.
Right.
So that was the solution that everybody came up with.
Right.
But we did provide the KPAC officer with a cell phone.
So the overtime pay is what I'm trying to get to. So the regular shift, the officer who's, I guess, assigned to is regular pay, right? Whatever we agree.
Regular pay, salary, benefits, everything.
So that's like, we pay for that officer. But if, since they can't work 24 hours, then the city then gives up. Are we paying those folks overtime, or is it just extra money? Is it an overtime pay? The overtime rate?
So when they want to make extra money, they say, let me volunteer at the housing authority, and they want to pay us. So is that necessary and allowable? What's the hours the regular officer works?
Well, I'm assuming she works a regular 40-hour week.
Day shift?
Yeah, she's over that day shift.
Okay, so
I'm trying to think back to what used to be, because it used to be a rotating, so we had somebody.
Is it a 24-hour contract for police services?
It's not. I don't think it states anything.
Mr. Jackson?
What needs to happen, the KPAC was the name of a defunct grant that's been out almost 20 years now. But we have to do a whole new MOU with the police department, addressing the things that
that's obvious.
Yeah.
You gotta do one from scratch.
Well, one of the things in the HUD report was, where is the procurement for the first KPAC or the first city agreement with the city? How did you come about this? Where's the procurement for it? So an MOU with somebody, but it sounds like we need to do an RFP for security services in general, and let the city or the county or whoever responds to it if we are, going to have something like this.
We'll get to that, but so we can decide what the shift and what the hours to eliminate them using us as a way of getting more money and we paying out this extra money to them. So
I don't think it was something nefarious. But,
No, the only way people could come up with to get more city police on our properties. because obviously the city couldn't hire one and keep one.
But I
I
had
think at one
officer
point
over
they had an option of bringing, like, one of their officers had left, and then they had, brought him back with the hopes of bringing him into that second K-PAC position, but apparently when they came back, that didn't happen.
Yeah,
So
I bet-
since I've been here, it's just an officer, right?
No, I think we need to talk as a board about this, probably in executive session.
Yes.
About this a little more, and, for us to look at that,
Is it,
that contract, so.
I can do this.
Ben is the one that needs it, and then you need to explain to us what's in it.
right,
Of,
so it's,
of the 120,000, is that what you said? Somewhere in there. How much of that is is from overtime? Over half?
I can tell you that tomorrow.
Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
There you go.
okay,
That's-
I was about to say, you're pretty good.
No,
You can
I'm
tell me right
looking
response,
at what I
man.
have right in front of me, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I
Okay.
can't help you.
is it anything on here that needs to be explained, or?
I think it's all, well, public housing in section 8, they're pretty self-explanatory. Under locally owned, you'll see, under sources, you'll see the bond issue fees. That goes back, I don't know, 3 or 4 years maybe. Glen Pines, a developer was coming in to do something, Glen Pines Apartments, which are on Altama, I think they're
Glen
somehow
Marsh, Glen Pines.
elderly.
Right,
But they asked us to issue bonds because we can, so we did, and we have gotten, some bond issuer fees. And so I'm not sure, because I don't know that I have all the paperwork on it, but so far, we've received about $27,000 over 3 years for that, but I don't know how far into, I don't know how long that'll go on.
I know they just
What
remodeled.
percentage of the outstanding bonds, but I don't know that off the top, I don't know where they are off the top of my
I
head.
know they just remodeled.
Yeah, we
that
need to
place.
find out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
because
is
they
expected
came
from
in
them.
and made a presentation of what all they were gonna do.
Mhm.
And-
Is it still for seniors? I heard that it's now open to anybody. I don't know if it's just for seniors now.
I don't know, I just know that when
No,
they came in
issuance
to make
bonds
the proposal,
to pay
that's,
for
you know,
the
that's the way it was described, but I don't know.
Construction.
How long ago?
bond.
Like general obligation,
Right, so like the hospital.
You need to bring somebody from Glen Pines.
Yeah, it was.
You all have the-
And I don't know.
Issue bonds.
Okay, we need to
And
find,
that, you talking about the developers?
Or the people who came in, yeah.
okay. All
And let's
right,
see if we can find them.
yeah,
Between Ben, you and Ms. Dyer. We need to know who these folk are. You know, yeah, and this was because authorities can issue bonds.
That's right, so they,
yeah.
the authority issued bonds to finance the remodel.
mhm.
So.
I've got emails.
They just
I've
have
got
it
that
now.
all.
They just have them.
So tax credits can be utilized, bond deals can be utilized to pay for, so this was a bond deal where the only ask really was for the authority to be the issuer. And you'll see it like with the development authority, they'll issue bonds. If Gulfstream was, I think that one of the hangars they built out of the airport, there was a bond issuance to pay for the hangars, for example.
What,
Cheaper financing for a borrower.
what do we gain from giving bond issuers to them?
Well,
The money.
The money, the income.
Hopefully you gain improved housing stock in the community. That would be the ultimate. It should be within your purposes, and so, that would be the ultimate thing, is that the community has improved housing stock for affordable housing. And then on top of that, the fees and you have no liability as the issuer. And it goes through a pretty lengthy process to issue the bonds.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, on the next page under Georgia HAP /NHC. I just want to point out that near the bottom of the list where it says interest income on developer fees accrued only, goes back to Whispering Oaks, and there's still, in theory, there are developer fees that are due to us, basically, from the housing authority from Georgia, from the Whispering Oaks organization. all this is just on the books, and there's accrued interest on it, but it's all of it's on the books, but Whispering Oaks don't have any money to build, so much less give us the developer feedback. So when you look at Whispering Oaks and or when you look at Georgia Half and you see interest income on developer fees, that's just on the books. It's probably, you'll never see those dollars, but I just wanted to point that out because it's there, because it has to be there, but, you know, we'll never see it. So,
Yeah, well, it depends on how we reconstitute the deal there. But we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But I agree with her in principle, because we don't know how we're gonna do that right now, so we should be looking for that.
right, and I just want to say, it's on there because it has to be there, but it's not
Gotcha.
real money.
What's NHC?
It's National Housing Compliance, is what Georgia HAP's official name. And then below that on Crystal Phoenix, I mentioned the land lease, before the meeting started, I mentioned the land lease for the 2 houses that are in the old land trust that we had, their Habitat homes. And we also receive developer fees for being a general partner in the Brunswick Commons tax credit property. And so far, I have that number too. So far, we have received over $600,000.
How often do we get that development fee? To once?
Roughly once a year. They said they were trying to accelerate payments, so I think one year we got more than one payment, but.
So, did we issue property-based vouchers to them?
Yes, project-based vouchers, we did try to 6, 7.
Okay, and how many units over there, 64
It's, I think it's,
or 52?
no, Brunswick Commons. I used to know that because of the 20.
Anyway, don't worry about it, I was just curious.
I used to know a lot of things.
What about the project behind Big Lots?
That's Brunswick Commons. That's project based.
Okay, I'm thinking Norwich
Norwich
Street,
Commons.
the whole
Yeah,
time.
that too.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Coastal Phoenix, if I can remember clearly, I know Ms. Strickland was saying that there's several housing authorities that input funding into Coastal Phoenix.
Georgia HAP.
Georgia HAP?
Yeah.
Georgia HAP was formed by 9 housing authorities in the state of Georgia who contributed $5,000 starting.
So what's the source for Coastal Phoenix?
Coastal Phoenix, when I started working here, there was real no source of income for Coastal Phoenix. The land trust that the housing authority was trying to set up as part of the partner. Tell me if I'm saying something wrong, because
There was also, at one time, the board was trying to build houses and qualify people for home ownership. And that was done under the umbrella of Coastal Phoenix.
Yeah, I was around when they were trying to do that. I was a housing consultant for a community development corporation that we had formed. And we were trying to get the board to okay the mortgage, the Section 8 vouchers for mortgage payments. I actually had them talk with a housing authority, I believe in Arkansas, about this, that had been doing it for a long time. Of course, they didn't listen to me. And they tried to do the land trust deal, but as there was a debate about how do you roll that out, and I think they used a guy out of Florida, came in to do a presentation about it, and I explained to them, I thought that you had to really do an education piece for these families, for them to understand, because they wouldn't, if they don't own the dirt underneath the house, they may not understand that it's still a benefit for them. It's not like Jacob Island, where that's what they have over there. It's a different clientele, and so, but I guess they did try it, and it didn't take off. And so,
If I remember right, they had
Recession.
trouble getting people qualified, recession, and they ended up, the houses were sold.
There was also some trouble with getting the agreement signed with the city or something, wasn't there? There was something about the houses, the city applied for some grant and they were gonna have the houses and they were gonna give them to us or something.
Could have been.
There was some grant, because they did not get the grant.
Yeah, it was, the mindset of the board, and, I believe executive director at the time, the way they rolled this out. But we did, we were doing a self-help housing, program under USDA. It was the only one done in the state, it was the first one. We built 5 houses, double car garages, 3 and 4 bedroom homes. Families went in with a 1 to 4% interest rate and $30,000 of equity the day that they closed, because we had layered in other grants through the Federal Home Loan Bank, and there's a national organization called the Housing Assistance Council, and they have funding to help you acquire land, and they're tied to that. They get money directly from Congress, along with this other national organization called Naval Works, and so we put all that together, but we had to fight the state to do it, and we had to push for that with the mindset of the board at the time. But they did try something, so.
That was out there off of, 82.
Yeah, it was off of Myers Hill Road. There's 2 on there, and then there was 3 rounds going.
Okay.
So Coastal Phoenix continues to get income?
I'm sorry.
Coastal Phoenix continues to receive income?
It receives income from the developer fees for, Brunswick Commons, and then it receives a very small amount of income for the land lease for the 2 habitat homes.
And we don't appear to have very much in the way of expenses.
Not really. We have to dedicate a little bit of someone's salary to Coastal Phoenix and to Georgia Half. In order for it not, when we're audited, so the auditors don't say, oh, look, you're running your nonprofit and your business activities with federal funds. So we have to charge some payroll dollars to both of those. It's easier with Georgia Half because there's always a representative here at the Housing Authority who is the one who goes to the Georgia Half meetings, et cetera, so we can easily find somewhere. But with Coastal Phoenix, it's really just usually it's an estimate of the ED's time, a small amount of time just to put some dollars there in Coastal Phoenix.
We don't do Norwich Commons, we just have Brunswick Commons.
We have tenants, we don't have any agreement with Norwich Commons. No.
Okay.
Or
Perry
Place.
Mm-hmm.
No, we have tenants who live there.
And the income from Coastal Phoenix, that goes into the,
Coastal Phoenix checking account.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do
Where's
those funds, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know that I've ever seen or noticed it.
It should be on there.
So the money
Okay.
that we get from them,
Now I see it.
is that what we use for repairs, if somebody needs repairs over there, or what? What's that money for?
In Coastal
Coastal
Phoenix,
Phoenix.
it really has no.
So it just sits there,
It
flows
just
interest?
sits there because the whole Coastal Phoenix, even though it exists, it's not really active.
Okay.
So the money basically sits.
How much
It's
is
in
in
there
there?
now.
$665,000.
You took the words out my mouth. How much, okay, how much?
Actually 664, around.
Yeah.
And the annual income into that is
Where you at?
just ballpark.
It's nothing right now. Guess we're not easy.
Maybe $100,000.
Okay.
Underneath
You pay
expenditure.
somebody's salary.
We appear to have discovered some money here tonight.
Exactly.
Just sitting there, no use.
Okay, I see it, okay. Mhm. Questions on them?
And those funds are unrestricted. And then there's,
Yeah, it's a nonprofit.
Restricted for a
yeah.
nonprofit, so
Right.
any
How much interest?
charitable.
but they're not earmarked
Not a
for.
whole lot.
They're non-federal
Because-
dollars.
Because all
Just
of
like
our
the Georgia
funds
half
that
is
we
also,
have in the bank,
which
whether
we
it's a
have
CD or a checking account,
buckets of
they have to put, the
federal
banks
funds.
have to pledge securities against us. So our interest rates that the banks are willing to pay because they have to pledge securities against it is lower than what other people can get.
Okay.
Yeah, I like this form, I like this here.
Now, because I sit on the board, plus a bunch of other organizations, but the Community Action Authority, and we have funds, investment funds that we set aside, and we had some folks who were not really doing anything with it, but they were getting some healthy fees, and when we changed that, it
There
was
is
throughout
a
the
very specific HUD list of what you can invest HUD funds in. Now and generally, like for procurement, I know with the procurement policy for the housing authority, even if it's your nonprofit or your business activities, which is Georgia Happen Local M, you have to follow the procurement policy that HUD sets because we're all under the umbrella of the housing authority. So I believe that is the same because we have the same depository agreement for all of our accounts, that we have to follow the same HUD rules for all of our funds. And they have very strict rules on what you can and cannot invest.
So even non-federal dollars?
Mm-hmm.
So then these are restricted funds?
Well,
Not
Say it's
restricted on the
that's
spend,
different.
restricted on the how you can
how you
invest
can
them.
invest them. The restricted funds are just a HUD term. What I refer to there as restricted funds, or the use of HAP funds for landlords only.
Any other questions, commissioners, for the financial report?
So many, but I'll let you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Commissioner Dickinson?
I'm good.
Commissioner Dobson?
Yes,
Any questions on the financial report?
not at this moment.
I entertain a motion.
Move to approve the April 2023 financial report.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same. That motion carries. All right, next on here is directors, executive directors, items, new business. The write-off tenants. Let me get to it first. We don't have any write-off?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Commissioners, y'all have any questions for this write-off for April?
I do not.
Commissioner Collins?
I think I'm good.
Commissioner Dobson?
Not at the moment.
Commissioner Dickinson?
I'm good.
All right.
We need a motion.
What's the rent, wait a minute. What's the rent charge on this last person? That's just how much they owed for the month and it rolled over?
Yeah, it looks like, she inquired the late charge because she paid it after the 5th. This maintenance charge, I can't tell what it is, so she might have moved out and left it and things might have been damaged or like abandoned the unit since certain monies weren't received or paid, meaning her rent. Looks like the 164 might have been her rent charge.
She has two different late fees. Why is that? One is 20, the first one says 20, and then the last one says 50.
I have to pull it up in the system and look. I think one of them, if you look at the dates right here where it's showing the rent charge for October and then November and then December, so there's 3 months she didn't pay, so it might be more than one of those fees. That's just totaling up at it adds it to the next one, so it might be pulling it under that one charge. You have to pull it up in the system to be able to look and see.
Okay, so if it's $20, it wouldn't be a high number, 50.
Correct,
It
that's
should
what I'm
be-
saying, we have to pull it up and see
Okay.
what, if there's something else in there.
Okay.
Yeah, she's right. The way Lee pulls it up is when you get to this and it finally gets to a point where there's somebody abandoning their unit or leaves. If there was a charge before we stopped charging that they never paid, it's going to come up when we close out that when they leave the unit. So even though we weren't doing it after January, if it's something that she had never taken care of prior to that, then it's gonna show up on here. So that, it might be that, but we have to pull the ledger out so we can really see what the full description is on those things.
But I thought going forward, we said even if they were prior going forward, we were still going to charge them that new fee and not continue to charge them that back.
Is this person currently in that
Because we
unit?
don't know, y'all didn't know how many people, we couldn't account for how many people that would still be under that late fee of $50 opposed to 20.
Well, from my understanding, they literally went in the system and just took it out, so it's not getting, those particular late fees. So that's, I mean, it says this late fee charge, but I need to see what
Okay.
that, more in detail than what that's for. Because each one of these things has a code, so
Right.
I can't, if I look at it now and say, yes, that's for
Right.
mine.
Right.
So we just have to pull her up and kind of do print out her ledger, because then you can really see what the date was and where they missed it. And you can even go in further if you want to, say what notices were sent, did they respond, and so forth.
Okay.
Whatever
I'm
you're
trying to weigh in on this conversation.
Wait a minute.
No, you
Is that
go.
person currently still in the unit?
No,
What did he say?
is that individual still in the unit?
No, this
These
is-
write-offs don't come up until the unless the units are vacant.
The units are vacant?
That's correct. So they either moved out on their own or turned in their keys, gave a notice, but they're not in the unit anymore.
So they didn't waive off the court proceedings?
Doesn't show that it went to, I can't see that far. It only shows specific line items. I'd have to go into the account to pull more information.
Commissioner Collins?
If it went to court, you'd see the charge,
Right there,
76.50. Yeah, that's not on here, so it indicates it's probably just turned in the keys or abandoned.
Well, will this person be allowed back in housing authority under those conditions?
Not as long as she owes the debt.
There's no rectifying, if she decides she wants to move back in the unit?
She goes to the collection agency, so she'd have to pay off the debt with the collection agency in order for it to be removed for her account, for her to be eligible for housing again.
And then she'll have to reapply for housing?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to get clear on how that procedure was.
Sure.
Commissioner Collins?
If we don't approve a pre-generation write-off, it just rolls forward to the next month. There's no real meaningful accounting measure there.
Commissioner Dickinson, you have any questions about the write-offs?
We'll see.
I can't hear.
He said he was good.
Okay.
I do have one thing to say that if somebody has abandoned their unit here and they have charges, so say they destroyed appliances or holes in walls or things like that, the unit has been destroyed upon leaving. And the maintenance guys come in and they assess their charges for the move out while the unit is left. When you send it to collections, it goes into a system that prevents them from going to another housing authority and being eligible, because until this money is written off, it does not go into the system database that every other housing authority can pull. And and then they can move into another housing authority with not any obligation to pay this debt back that they owe, whether it's for rent or not. When you write it off, it goes through this system. So then it gets pulled in, and until they pay that debt off, we do not go into EID, which is the system, and say that debt's been paid. So that's one of the systems we look at when people come in and apply for public housing. We look in that system, do they owe a debt to any other housing authority?
So do that policy apply to any other housing authority out of this jurisdiction?
It's across the United States.
So there's no way back in until that is nicely clear.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So we get some folks, well, I'm trying to get housing down, down here in Miami, and
Right.
it says I owe you guys money. So
Right.
then they're quickly to come and
Right,
pay it off.
because they can look in the thing and see that they're
That's
cross
correct.
moving
Yeah.
and they still over there.
It's the
Right.
social flags that won't let you participate in two
Okay.
federally funded programs at the same time.
Commissioner Combs?
That answers my question. That's very interesting, by the way.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
I'm gonna move to table the regeneration write-off until our next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Do we have occasion for an executive session?
I'll second that motion.
Yes, all right. All in favor to table the,
I second.
okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same? All right, that motion carries to table this right off until our next meeting.
Just don't do that in June. Year end, we want as many of those.
It depends. Don't hold us to that.
I have a question, I'm sorry. Is it gonna be tabled to the next work session or the work?
I think we can probably address it in the
Work
work session.
session. All right,
What was the
next.
motion to the next meeting? I'll be more specific next time.
All right, next on the item is discussion items, the repayment agreements.
So this question came up a couple weeks ago. So we have folks that are on repayment agreements. A lot of the folks that are on repayment agreements are due to the moratorium that was out, when COVID was rampant and people were not able to work and so forth. So we gave residents several months to sign up for payment agreements, and they found themselves not being able to satisfy their monthly rent fees. And then the moratorium stopped and we went back to not doing payment agreements. There was some verbiage that was kind of floating around that, no we are, yes we are, no we are, yes we aren't, or no we're not. And so right now we do have folks, not many, we probably have a small handful of folks that are making their payments because it was during COVID when they got behind or whatnot, and they've been making their payments on time. The question is, are we doing payment agreements for residents who have issues right now outside of that moratorium or not? And the reason why I say that is because what we've come into fairly recently is we have folks who, there's a system that our AMP site managers use, and they check this program and it shows anytime your social populates that you're employed. That's how we verify the information that we get matches, so we're making sure we're charging rent appropriately. So when they don't report it like their lease requires them to do, within 10 days of that change. So if you get a job, you gotta tell us in 10 days you got a job, okay? Don't immediately change your rent, you gotta wait till we get 3 paychecks, and then we look at what that income is, and then your rent gets adjusted, okay? If you're employed, it doesn't go to the first of the next month, it's 45 days out to give you time to get acclimated. It's a decrease, it's effective the first of the following month of that change, okay? So in their lease, it says you have to provide that interim within 10 days of that change. When a month or two goes by, because the system that we kind of pull that the site managers can check is not day for day, minute for minute, hour for hour. There's a little bit of lag in there. So, sometimes it's a month tells you, this is when they started, this is how much money they made, but they've never reported it to you. So a lot of times these individuals are getting utility allowances, okay? And the housing authority is paying 100% of their rent, and they're working and collecting an income. So when we run that and it's verified that, oh, they're still working, and we reach out to them, oh, I forgot to tell them. Okay, well, now we're required per HUD regulations to go back, because you can't receive utility allowance and all that, you know, if you're not meeting the guidelines for how much that rent is calculated for. So then you have to go back, and they have to pay back the utility allowances, and they have to pay the difference in the rent that they were supposed to have been paying versus not having to make any because they didn't report it, okay? So then, wow, that's a lot of money, I should have reported it. We had one lady recently who was offered a payment arrangement and declined it. No, I don't need it, I'm just gonna wait and I'll get it taken care of. So they offered it to her again, said, hey, look, this is still outstanding. You're gonna get a notice, a 30-day notice, because it's becoming way past it. So then the question came up, well, I thought we weren't doing repayment agreements anymore. I thought that was only for the people that were involved in it and was going for that moratorium, which made sense. So I looked and combed all through the lease. There's nothing in there. It specifically says we do not offer payment agreements. So the issue is the housing authority is in no way able to withstand paying everybody's rent. Why would residents report any kind of income or follow the process for filling out the interim forms that they're supposed to? There's no accountability for that. And then how are we benefiting them moving forward and beyond housing if there's this false sense that you can pick and choose, you know, which policies we follow or we don't, you know? So staff has to adhere to what the lease says, because HUD requires that we have this lease, so that's why I'm bringing it to y'all. Are we doing?
So from what you're saying is, even under those policies, if that person, you agree to pay the money back that they did not report, are they still eligible to stay in the housing authority units?
Well, as long as they pay it within the time frame that their notice specifies, which I believe is 30 days.
And after the 30 days expire, if it's not been paid, then you go through the regular proceedings of their court and evictions.
That's correct.
So how do we avoid us going into the future? Do we you check Social Security numbers? How do you track that down or locate the person that's been working and not reporting their income?
There's a government program that anytime you start a job and your Social Security number is entered in by your employer, it populates it.
Okay, you get that report through HUD or you get it through your main office here?
No, we get it through a company that is vetted through HUD.
Okay. So we have many of those cases that's going on right now?
We have enough to warrant it needing board intervention.
So.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
So this has become a habit?
Yes, sir.
So back in November, we did this repayment agreement when Mr. Baker and Mr. Kitts was here. And we talked about, well, I guess if the lease doesn't have it, we're in the process of updating the lease and our bylaws and our procurement policies in June. So we would have to put something in there to cover that. But I know in November, right here, we had this repayment agreement, but I have to read it, not tonight, to see if it states, is it for people that were just under the COVID or anybody? Because I remember it coming out saying that there was a repayment for people just underneath COVID. But like you said, now that it's lifted, what do we do for that?
Yeah.
And so I think that we come in June, that's what's on our table for our work session, is to update our procurement and our bylaws and our leases to conform to this here.
And I think it's important on both sides of it, and important to think about this when y'all make those corrections or addendums. and
Next time
whatnot. We have just as many residents who do follow their lease to a T and make the adjustments in their life and take opportunities that are presented, whether it's programs or services or whatnot, to adhere to it and to grow. And so I fear that if we pacify folks who are habitual violators of their lease or the policies, what does that say to our residents who are working really, really hard to follow all the rules and do what they're supposed to do? You know, I mean, I don't want them to feel like, because at the end of the day, when does that string get pulled where they say, well, why am I doing it when all my neighbors aren't liking it, you know? So I just want y'all to take that into consideration with whatever the decisions are made, so that way we're really working towards creating self-sufficiency, you know?
Correct. That's correct.
Would you consider most of them to be habitual violators?
There is a good handful, or maybe two, that are at the last minute pulling strings or showing up with the money order, which is fine. They get to stay in their place, and by all means, the last thing that we want to get into the habit or the routine of is causing people to lose their homes, you know? But at the same time, if you're collecting an income, and we're paying you a utility allowance, and we're taking care of your rent, and you're able to, we're taking away that opportunity from another family who can't right now.
Right.
And so I just think that if we use it for what it's for, and we help people get established and get on their feet, so that way this is temporary, and they are in the routine of paying their own rent or their own mortgage and their own utilities, then it's a win-win situation. But if we don't hold them accountable, just like me, you, or you, in paying our bills and being responsible, then how are we doing them any justice?
Do we have any kind of programs?
Maybe we should revise that rule going forward to avoid this situation that's going to arise, because this is going to continue until we do some form of letter, letting tenants know that this is mandatory. I think it's going to continue to happen, so it's something that we should maybe look into.
We don't have a perfect world, but we can get most of the people to do it. And like you said, most people do follow the rules. It's just a handful. Some people are just procrastinators and waiting until the last minute. So there are those that, as long as they pay at the last minute and avoid the late fees, that's fine. But we'll see into dealing with those who are not paying. And if we ever come underneath a seasonal weather condition, so we'll try to figure that out and add that in our bylaws and procurement of how we'll go forward and retain that repayment.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I guess I'm trying to get clarity on this, because if
That was a good topic you hit on there. That's very important.
if the say they have to pay by the 5th, what's the late fee?
$20.
$20.
Yes.
No, can I correct that? To my understanding, it's the 6th.
It's
Let's
late
say
on the
It's
late on the 6th.
It's late on the 6th.
Yes.
You pay your rent up into the 5th.
Okay,
And it's
because
on
it used to be
6th?
late on the 5th.
No. If it's never late on the 5th. The 5th is the last day you can pay to avoid a late fee.
So,
Right.
so
And the 6th is the dead. Okay, I got you now, because it changes one time.
So if the person pays on the 5th, are we talking about that, or are we talking about them paying on the 6th?
We're talking about them not
Paying at all.
Not paying at
Like
all.
say they have a job and they get a new job. They're not reporting within their deadline to them that they got a new job, and they're getting a utility check to help pay for their utilities. And so they might be making money to cover their utilities, So, and they don't want to lose that utility check, so they're not reporting it.
Well, and your rental amount-
Only when COVID came
Yeah.
Mhm.
and HUD said you could have these repayment agreements.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There was a policy to have these repayment agreements trying to help everybody trying to figure out how to get through the pandemic.
And they
Right.
put 10% down of whatever the balance that they owed, and then there was an agreeable, payment that they made every month on top of their rent. So, but the way the agreement was if you missed a payment in that
Yeah,
repayment
everything.
agreement, it was voided out, and then you owe the full balance.
Right.
And what
Are we
happens
still,
with these
are we
rent
still on the same
variances
system where you have to have so many
when they
hours
recalculate
in?
your rent?
Wait a minute,
on,
Commissioner,
once-
wait a minute, Commissioner Dodson, somebody's already speaking.
When they find out when the site staff finds out that you're working and you've had a job for a couple months, they recalculate your rent and all of a sudden your rent's not negative, your rent's positive, and all of a sudden you owe $600 and you owe it right then. You know, you went from not paying any rent to having a big payment that's due basically right now, and that's,
Because you didn't report it.
Right.
Because once your rent is based off of a percentage of your income. So when you're not reporting a big chunk, or if you have two jobs and you're only reporting the one very, very slim part-time position, it becomes,
So when do we check do we check monthly or every 2 weeks or something to
So,
see if the resident?
there's that program I was telling you about that they can
Right.
pull it up and they check all of their residents, but there is a lag in that program. Not every employer is super efficient about getting the socials and documentation supported to Georgia new hires, which pulls into that system, or their I-9 documentation. I mean, and some don't do it at all, to be honest with you. But so there's a lag in when that information gets submitted by an employer, and then when it populates for somebody like us to be able to go in and verify what that income looks like and the dates of employment.
Do we, I know, I'm pretty sure during the orientation, when people first come in, we talk about this.
Absolutely.
Do we ever say it again? Do we put it in the newsletter?
Right.
I mean, realistically, probably not. I mean, it goes over there in their annual, and it goes through, when they first move in, but as far as a repetitive process, probably.
But now when
This-
Jobs Plus starts, they'll be
Yes.
able to work and have no,
But what you could do is implement when you have resident meetings every month to make that a reminder.
And I believe one
Yes.
that has.
So
the
what we
resident
have
meetings,
is
they do.
the resident responsibility workshops.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through step by step with them. So when they
Okay.
come to resident services, we got the list of names.
Mm-hmm.
When you see workshop, resident responsibility workshop, it goes over everything what we're talking about
Right.
again.
But
No.
check this out.
Mhm.
The only people showing up to that resident responsibility are the people that are responsible. The people that might owe the money are the ones who are not
Yeah,
coming.
but that also too.
So it
and
has
that's a mandatory with the resident responsibility workshop that takes place over in Oglethorpe. That
Is
You
is it mandatory?
is mandatory, and it's a fee structure. If you don't, you get fined for not going to that.
What's the?
I
Okay.
think about $25.
So going forward, what we can do is just put a little space. All of these things are worthy for website to reminders, newsletter reminders, and the welcome package when they come in. You know, so they can't never say they can't find it anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Has HUD, so the initial repayment agreements had some guidance, I mean,
Here it is.
are we allowed to have repayment
you're
agreements?
allowed to
You're
have
allowed
them.
to.
And you can write your own.
We just don't have them in our
We
Right.
do not have them.
And so we can kick off and use this for a template when we go to our,
So we need to talk about that.
yes, in our work session.
So just so I understand, so if you have a job and you get a raise, the increase in rent wouldn't be effective for 45 days.
That's correct.
And so basically, if they don't report it for 45 days, that's fine. It's on that 46th day that they start to accrue.
But they have to report it within 10 days.
But it
of
has
issuing.
to get that
That's for
grace
their
period.
Has to
rights,
happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
to get that 45-day grace period, you've got
10
to
days.
report your change in income within 10 days of that change.
And that's called an interim.
And
And
so
that's
if you
whether your
don't
money
report
is
it,
up or
And we
down.
find out,
you get shafted all the way back to the beginning.
That's
because they
correct.
know.
I'm in favor of a repayment plan then. That's stupid.
But I don't understand, so, like he said, what I don't understand is, I don't think they should go back to what their original rent was. I think they should be just retro paid back to the time that they started making that difference in income.
It's that
So-
much. So it's not all the way when
Right.
they first moved in.
Okay.
It just goes back to when
Right,
they
what they
started.
But it's an
making.
increase for 45 days that they wouldn't have otherwise had. That, it's just slightly bizarre to me. But I now understand.
It's kind of like the perk, if you report on time and follow the rules, is we're gonna give you a 45-day grace period. But if you don't inform them, that's what I think the logic behind it was at the time, whoever wrote it.
I see the logic. I think it's very, very
Yeah.
punitive.
So if you don't have a job and you're
Right.
with the Job Plus will take care of that.
Right.
We paid
Well,
Right.
so
That
they
makes
did
it
not,
attractive.
for 4 years.
Okay,
Mhm.
let's move along. Any other
So we may, it
questions?
sound like we may already have a solution to this.
Yeah, we just gotta close that vice, keep them being habitual.
Yeah.
That's it, we just gotta have something right for that.
Job Plus is only here for what, 4 years?
Job Plus is
Well,
not every,
This cycle,
It's not everybody.
Right,
not every.
Can I say
Yeah.
not and pass it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
actually,
Yeah, but let's
It's
talk
okay.
about that.
If we wanted to allow repayment plans under the lease, how do we amend the leases?
Well, we're gonna update the application lease anyway. We
Well,
wanna look at.
for the residents who are already
Yes,
under a
in
lease.
public housing.
Do we just provide them with notice, or do they have to re-sign?
You send an official notice.
Okay.
And I would think it would be beneficial if
Right.
property managers potentially made appointments and actually had a signature
Sure.
that shows that they've acknowledged, because a lot of times I didn't get it in the mail, or it wasn't in my door. So this way we can make sure, one, they get a copy, two, they understand if they have any questions, and then we have a signed document that shows that we have reviewed or exchanged that information with them.
Got it.
You have a question for this?
I actually don't have a question. I was gonna say that there actually is a repayment plan in place. I'm actually on one. So they
Okay.
already do have it in place. Whereas you go to your site manager's office and you actually go on and you, she'll calculate and everything, and then it'll give you a monthly amount that you pay per month. That's all I was gonna say.
Okay,
It was nice.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any more questions on that repayment plan? Okay,
I just got a quick.
next up, oh, you got one?
I just got a quick. So was this about us entering into repayment agreements or about the current repayment agreements that people have defaulted on?
Ooh, good question.
So it's a catch-22. So we have some amps that are still doing it, and then we have some that are not, because they're going by the lease. So I couldn't find that document that you had that was with Mr. So I'm rummaging through emails that I can find in board meetings to see where it was approved or agreed, and I couldn't find anything. So that's why I said, well, let me bring it up in the meeting, but unfortunately I had an emergency and I was out at the workshop meeting, so that's why it's on this one, so we can get clarification. Are we doing it? Are we not doing it? And if you want to, right now, if you default, you default. You now owe the balance of that money effective immediately. So, that would be something if you guys wanted to change the verbiage on that, or how that process would.
And we're currently
Yeah,
treating
this though, don't-
treating the repayment agreements like they're still in effect.
This lease.
Correct.
This lease that,
The lease or the repayment agreement?
huh?
The lease or the repayment agreement?
Do you have a
We're talking-
copy of this repayment agreement that was out last November?
Maybe.
Well, if y'all need a copy, I will share it
Okay.
with everybody, my board. All right. Moving along, next up is the vacancy report and waiting list report.
No, we haven't done the HUD response.
Oh, dang, I skipped over. I'm sorry. Forgive me. HUD report update?
Yeah, I talked to him today. I actually got an email from Katie, one of the, she was working on the HUD review remotely. She did not come down here. But she had a question for me, so I answered it, and I asked her, how's it going? I haven't heard from anybody in a while. And she goes, oh, okay. They're actually having a meeting tomorrow to discuss the HUD review, and she said she would get back with me after that and let me know where they stand on everything.
Okay, before the end of the day or sometime soon, they'll let you know.
She said after.
Okay.
I was just happy to hear that.
So,
Are y'all
still getting questions or?
No, nothing. That's
Are they
the
asking
first-
y'all for anything?
No, that's the
Okay.
first, when I got that email from her, she asked me a specific question, and I sent her the answer right back.
Mhm.
And when I asked her about the HUD review, that is the only feedback I've gotten, except for 2 or 3 weeks ago from Christina Miller, when I asked her the same thing. She said, we will review this and we'll get back to you shortly. That's all we're getting, so I don't know.
Let me ask this. I'm not sure if this is the best time to ask this, but were the deliverables on folk that we had contracts with under this HUD report, where the consultants had the contracts, in their contract, they were supposed to perform certain things. Do we know what those were? And did we get, not so much if if they were paid with HUD federal dollars, because if we're replenishing it with non-federal dollars, that should take care of that, I'm thinking. But for us, if we pay somebody $10 for them to help you file some paperwork, do we know that they did that?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that there are things within most of those contracts that you can see something that we got for what we paid for. But I would say overall, I'm not counting the construction ones, I don't know about those. But the other contracts, no.
So we didn't get the deliverables?
No,
Gotcha.
and even if, yes, we did pay from ended up through non-federal. However, with the exception of Mr. Baker's contract, because he was hired directly by the board and it doesn't fall under the same rules or whatever, but all those other contracts, even though it was non-federal, none of the procurement policy was followed on any of those. They were just brought in, done, whatever. There were no RFPs issued for any of those people.
And some were without board approval too.
Yeah, we need to find out exactly who we paid and we didn't get what we paid for. I don't know how we do that, but we need to do that. And then we can decide on what we're gonna do about it.
Right. Have y'all found the
That sounds like
2
executive
MacBooks
session
yet?
talk.
Yeah, we have all three. We have all three.
We haven't seen them. Y'all have them?
Bradley had, I think Akeem is using one of them, and I think Bradley has the other 2 in his office at storage, but he's got receipts, because I already emailed those to HUD. Bradley signed off on, yes, I have received all the MacBooks, whatever, and I sent that documentation to HUD.
Okay.
And you'll let us know when you hear from them, just shoot an email. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners, on this HUD report? Commissioner Dickinson? Commissioner Dickinson?
No question, I apologize.
All right.
Mr. Ask a question about it's similar.
Go ahead.
Similar kind of thing.
Go ahead.
Because my question is, we've sent, I know the deadline for that is next week, I think.
For the subpoena?
And we've sent a lot of stuff to Sarah Lamar. Do you know if they forwarded any of that to the?
Forwarded the response before the deadline.
Okay, I didn't know the status once it got sent. I didn't know what happened.
Okay. Commissioner Dobson, you have any questions for the HUD report? Commissioner Dobson.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I just turned it off for a minute.
All right, do you have any questions about the HUD
I just
report?
have one question, which she followed up on everything I want to hear. There's just one question I want to ask you. We still have implemented the community service act on the tenants when they receive the utility checks.
We're back, Commissioner Dobson, we're past that. We on the HUD report.
Oh, you're on the report. Well, I was going to read that. I was just listening. That was a question I want to ask when you cut me off. You said somebody was talking, so let's go ahead on.
Do you have any questions on the HUD report?
Got it this time.
All right. Next thing on the discussion items is the vacancy report and waiting list report from Mr. Williams. Oh, well, I didn't know that. If you can't stand, let us know. There's no problem. You can't stand long? You can sit down.
It's alright. Currently, the housing authority has 86 vacant units. Actually, it's 85. It's 85. One unit got leased today.
Okay.
One unit got leased today. I'm gonna be up in 1 second.
He just said he didn't
It's
want to
already
sit down.
giving me problems. I'm probably got it all standing right here.
Yeah, why don't you just pull a chair right down to the
No, I'm fine. I've been sitting on that ransom for the longest, just resting everything on top of this stuff. I need to have an elevator right now. So we got 86 vacant units, and this waiting list report, we said this was last Thursday. when I was out.
85 or 86? You said you
80,
had.
it's this report, the report that you had says 86. They
Okay,
leased one unit today, so it's actually 85.
okay.
And your waiting list number is 1,180. I don't handle the waiting list, so I can't even answer any questions about that. For you, the person who handles the waiting list is actually the admissions counselor, and she wasn't asked to be here.
I just wanted to know what's on the waiting list number count. That's all.
1,180.
Got it.
Alright. And what happened?
What's happening with the remodeling update on Mercer and Brooklyn?
Before we go there, Mr. Williams, the waiting list, is that for the AMP units or is it Section 8?
That's probably not.
Section 8 has 295 on it.
Yeah, I need that count to 295. I forgot to add that. 295.
As
Okay.
long as it's somebody.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any questions on the vacancy report or waiting list, commissioners?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Dickinson, you have any questions for the vacancy or waiting list?
No questions, it was all yours.
All right. Commissioner Dobson?
No, not right now.
All right. Moving right along.
Mercer, that fire rebuild job going on over there. I gave, in the work session meeting, I gave Mr. Kent's last field report. I wasn't here all last week, so I haven't spoken to him about anything that they have going on over there. I've passed by over there and I see that they have the roofs off. And once Mr. Musgrove, contract administrator, called me while I was out last week and told me they came into an issue, something about possibly having to remove a support beam over there, which was some of the issues we already knew you were gonna find once you started digging into that, because the estimators can only see what they see they haven't demoed anything. They don't know the real extent of all the damage until you start deconstructing. So that was the issue with where they was thinking they may have to do something to structural support people. I haven't received any correspondence to that effect at this time. I'm sure once they assess it and figure out what's going on, Mr. Kent will let me know, and I'll be happy to provide you with that report. But at the agenda meeting, I did give you his field report.
So is this, back to the support being, is it for all the units that are getting repaired or just one individual?
I don't know.
Okay.
Buddy called me, and I think it's only, if I had to guess, I would say only be in that unit where the fire started.
Okay. But until we get that correspondence, we won't know for sure. Okay.
I know there's no roof over there. We have the roof off, and the building is completely good.
Okay.
And I have some submittals I received for approval, and we talked about flooring going back into there, moving forward. And I'm still waiting on the change orders for that. Mr. Kent issued me the change orders for that sometime. Well, he actually does the analysis on those. And then
the change order for the tub and the floor?
Tubs. We actually did a change order for the tubs at the contract sign.
Mm-hmm.
We actually did that change order at the contract sign. There was the flooring and ceramic tiling inside the apartments, as opposed to doing a floating floor with tiles against.
So did you say the ceramic? Okay, the ceramic floor. Okay.
Ceramic floor.
Mm-hmm.
It was throughout the apartment, and the bathroom became an issue because when they pulled the toilets up, some of the flooring came up the toilets.
Mm-hmm. You said that. Mm-hmm.
So on that one. Unless anybody has any questions about Mercer, I may be able to answer some questions, specific questions that you may have about it. Other than that, I'll keep providing you field reports when I
Okay. Any questions for that, Mercer commissioners? All right.
No questions.
Commissioner Dobson, can you,
Can you mute, please, Mr. Dobson?
I mean, you can mute him from that phone, but then turn it back on.
no, he won't hear.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right. Brooklyn Homes.
Brooklyn Homes, Mr. Bennett, I had a meeting with him this morning and a walkthrough on his first 2 test units. Preliminary testing results came back. All the building materials came back negative for ACB units, specifically building materials. All the results came back negative, so he's fine on that. And Mr. Bennett started 2 test bath remodels over there. 91 Brooklyn is about 90% finished. They have to trim out inside of the windows with that marble size, and it looked pretty good too. And the other one was 68, probably about 70% finished with that one. Took them about a week, but those 2 units were for them to go in, figure out what they were going to run into, getting that started, and the plan is to move into this 11 other vacant units. So they will move into the other vacant units to keep perfecting their movements as they go along before they start in the occupied units. So that it'll go faster when they get in there and they can get people their facilities back fast. And at the same time, they did the vacancy painting and cleaning in those 2 test units. So should have them back Wednesday. I should have both of those back. Painted, cleaned, ready for a maintenance project. Be able to release those units back, and I'll get pictures of what the bathrooms look like finished, and provide that too. Okay. Moving by, we looking at trying to have the other 11 vacant bathrooms done in that community by the end of the month.
By the end of the month? Oh, May, June?
Oh,
What month? May, June?
June.
Okay.
What about apartment 100?
Apartment 100 Brooklyn.
I was curious. I used to live in that.
What about it?
It's gonna be a historical building reunion. Okay. Anybody have any questions on Brooklyn? Did you hurt your foot on the job?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I hurt my foot. Children.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Brooklyn. That was that.
Procurement.
Yeah,
Dates
procurement.
pending our police updates.
There was something else about it.
With Brooklyn, something else with Brooklyn?
There was something else about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry I threw you off.
No, I made that. I did say they did the painting and cleaning on that unit. That same contract is working on the other turns. So today he has those 2, 4, 8. I'm hoping to have those 2 units and another 6 units back from them. Not with bathroom models, just with vacancy turns.
Okay.
Hopefully next week. I'm giving 4 more keys tomorrow to do 4 units in McIntyre. So we're hoping to get those back and get them leased up, get families in them. I'm hoping to have those back by next week. Hopefully in next week.
So that number will be added to the 85?
No, that number once leased it'll be deducted from the 85.
Well, I'm saying though, will you count?
It's in the 85.
That's my ignorance, thank you.
Yeah, it's in the 85.
So once he turns them back over to whoever, what happens? We already have the 8 families ranked in line. Whoever's next in line. What's that process like?
Okay. So once they get done, they'll hand the units back over to me. Maintenance will go in, make any other repairs, doors that need to be replaced, make sure the plumbing works, make sure all the electrical receptacles and all of that is in order. We go through and do that part. And then we turn them back over to the site managers for lease up. But in that same time, when we receive it, admissions, each unit, 4 offer letters for a family that fits that size unit. So 4 offer letters. And then they receive responses back from that. The first person to be qualified and get everything back is pretty much awarded that unit.
Yeah, they're offered that.
They're awarded that unit. And then once we get, and usually, well, the way it used to work, that would already be done before we ever even
Do the repair.
before we ever even did the repairs. That would already be done. But it's been so long since we've operated that way.
We'll have admissions in to see how that operation goes.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
and
goes.
it's gonna be real tough on us.
I think once they
Trying to get those
can
things.
get a good timeline, like, look, we're a week out or something, where you can gauge, because that's kind of how it was before. It would normally take the guys anywhere from, depending the conditions of the unit, the way it was left, anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks. And we have to offer the oldest unit that was left available. So, unless there's some reason, maybe it has an infestation or something like that, and that requires it waiting too long, we can offer another unit that's available. But ideally, as soon as it would come open and they'd be able to determine how long it's gonna take, you could then go ahead and offer it. They can see it or see a floor plan and whatnot, and then get that process flowing for being prepared to have a move-in date.
All right.
And let's see, the way it worked, they offered it essentially on day 1. As soon as the unit became vacant, you got your keys back in for it, you got possession of it or whatever, they would send out offer letters, day 1. Because you have 14 days to go from vacant to lease. So day 1, they would send it. You get Once you get your letter in the mail, you get 3 days to respond back. Or they move on to the next person or the next batch. Start finding, they move on to the next. So it's 3 days to respond. So in that time, people would respond and boom, somebody would be awarded the unit. And by the time we got done, it would.
They could move in, they could come and inspect it and see if it's favorable to them, and they could move in.
I'd like to point out something. You said you're gonna review the bylaws and the lease agreement. You can apply for Brunswick Housing from anywhere there's internet. You don't have to be local.
Yeah.
And that, sometimes that,
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a question I was gonna ask earlier. Do we still just do worldwide, I'm calling it, for applicants?
No,
You can, for public housing, because that waiting list never closes, it stays
Right.
open constantly. So
Right.
you can technically come from anywhere
Right.
and apply for housing. You can get an application off the website, you can mail it in. As long as you turn in your documents that are required, we don't refuse anybody. The Section 8 waiting list is the one that you have more flexibility with. That waiting list only opens when the housing authority decides that, okay, it's time to open this list, or we're getting, so far down, whatever the reasons might be. But you can say, then we're only going to open it from this time to this time, and it's only gonna be in person, and we have the applications numbered or tagged so people can't go and make duplicate copies or whatnot. Maybe offer them to those people who are physically here at your door, which is more of an opportunity for local folks to get that in, but that's not.
So
the way
at no
it
point can we say that we just give the local people extra points or something?
Yeah, we have a local preference.
Yeah, there's preferences.
Preferences.
Or
Okay.
a big selected.
Yeah.
Right.
Not for
Yeah.
filling on that.
In public
Right.
housing or Section 8?
In public housing.
All right.
All right.
Any more
We'll deal with that
questions?
later.
All right, moving right along. Any more questions on remodeling update on Mercer and Brooklyn Homes, commissioners? All right, moving along to procurement, due dates, pending bids, and RFPs updates.
I gave everybody that's here, that's not here. What I gave you was, okay, so lawn maintenance contract, the bid closed on that on Friday. I have behind me back there my list of bidders that I contacted personally and that contacted me from the solicitation in the newspaper. I tried to print the list of bidders from the e-procurement site. But the spreadsheet that it came up in, it did not like to be printed. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to print that off. I'll send everybody the PDF for it. That's my list of bidders from in-house for that contract, and I said all that to say this, I still only received one response.
Oh, really?
I had at least 10 document holders. And I still only received one response, and that was still from Jarrell.
Can we send this back out?
Alright, this is my second time doing it.
How many did we get the first one?
One.
Same guy?
Same guy. Well, at least he's consistent.
Why would we rebid it?
Because I only got one.
Which guy was consistent?
Jerome.
Jarrell, Chris Jarrell?
And that's not, they don't have the best service for us.
Oh, well.
I'm asking the question.
Oh, no, sir.
Right.
No, sir. I've spoken with, you got Mr. Dickinson and Mr. Dobson. No, not at all. Do I think maybe me and Mr. Jarrell can sit down and talk about the deliverables and how we can receive a better service?
How long he's been working here?
This is his, and I got all the lawn maintenance files over there. And I think this was his second, maybe third. He had it one time, he lost it to another company. The company that beat him out, I think they said they was worse than he was. So he won it back. I think he's had it for the last 6 years. I think he's had 2 contracts consecutively since he lost it.
Yeah, I mean, he's on a month to month right now, right?
He's on month to month right now.
Yeah, to me, I mean, it doesn't hurt us to go back out. I mean, because you shouldn't have to keep having to have a sit down with this person if he's professional enough. Now, let's maybe look at procurement a little differently as we move forward. Because if you get somebody that's professional, that you can work well, because it's gonna keep your headache down. You already got 1,000 other headaches. And right now, if we stay like we are, I mean, we don't really lose anything if we got a month to month with them. He gonna do whatever he does. I mean, you can encourage him to do a little more, but I think we should maybe send it back out. But let's talk about something. Because there's the county has several private companies that do, I think there's a private company that does because we don't have enough county workers, and we don't want enough that we got, because we have to pay the pension and all that stuff. So that's why you contract. But all these parts, because there's a bunch of parts, and then you got the courthouse. Even I think that's a private contract. So, I mean, even if you got a list from just the county, I'm just throwing that out, of folk that the county use, and that I believe you'll be able to get 1 or 2 other folk to bid on this. I mean, it's a nice size contract. It is, we do have, some units. But it's not like they're moving targets. They're in a specific area. And so that's what I would recommend to the board.
What are we paying right now? About $12,000 a month?
12,000 a month here's the problem. Here's the problem with not putting them under contract. You see, the terms of the contract make it where you can terminate it at any time,
Right.
cause. But if you don't put him under contract and you keep going month to month, he can change the price.
Right. So does he want to be under contract?
He wants to be under contract.
Yeah, but I don't want to be have a contract with somebody who's not doing the work. Job.
Well, essentially, even if you had a contract for him, because you can terminate that contract for cause at any point in time, the only thing the contract does for you is lock your price.
So could we keep him under contract and still put this out and find somebody else?
I'll follow your lead,
Mr.
Mr. Williams. Is something you got to deal with, but I'm pretty confident at some point we can get somebody that can do this better. So,
and I mean, maybe reaching out to the county's procurement department and seeing their vendor list on that will help. This is the second time that I've been and still only got 1 response. I don't know if it's the housing authority that they got an affliction for. I don't know what to do.
So how do you send it out?
I advertise in the paper, we advertise it on our website, and I use the e-procurement site this time.
Yeah.
There were companies from Florida, there were companies from Augusta that all took solicitation, and none of them bid, because I was certain none of them would anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it was one in Jacksonville that I thought might. Brightview, which is at the top of this list, Mr. Doyle, he is the only one that came to the site visit.
Right. And let's if you feel comfortable going ahead and putting him under contract and saying we can, terminate it at any point, I'm fine with that. But let's look at other ways to get the word out.
and still be looking for
So
somebody
this is a
else.
nice size contract, you gotta work it, but it is a nice size contract.
Mhm.
So
So
you-
you said the county procurement, what's underneath the city procurement for lawn care?
I mean, I don't know.
Prisoners.
Huh?
The prisons.
Oh, man.
That's right.
Well, the county and the city use it,
Okay.
the state prison.
Mhm.
I don't know if they still do that because it hadn't come before.
I haven't seen something in a while.
Okay.
But, Mr. Williams, what do you want to do?
Getting the grass.
I think if you don't do a contract, like my only problem with not doing one, I mean, we only but my only problem with not doing one, well, and doing a third solicitation is, this one ain't gonna take me 30 hours to do it. It took me 30 hours to put it together, but this one ain't gonna take me 30 hours to do because it's already built and I just reissue it again. But if
You said he can raise his prices. When was the last time he increased his prices?
when his
Within
contract
his-
expired,
When?
when his contract expired.
Just a couple of months ago.
10,000
And so for the month to month, he increased his price?
He increased his prices to
How much more?
what he expected to be. It used to be like what,
It was 10
10,
something.
like 10,000.
Increased it 2,000?
12.
Well,
Mr. Jackson had.
Yeah,
Just keep in mind, this is grass season. Everybody
Right.
adjusting his schedule, and if he feel like he can get more money, he get his guys. This is grass season.
but that's why I say
Won't
keep
have a
him
price
and
set
still
in
be
stone.
looking. Keep him and still be looking. But we need to put him in contract so he can't keep increasing his prices. All right, moving right along. Is it anything else?
You need a motion on that?
Oh no, I was just giving y'all that. I haven't even I wouldn't ask for nothing on it. It was just an update on what happened. That just came in Friday. I looked at it when I got in this morning.
All right.
Okay.
And I already knew what his price was gonna be. He already told me pretty much. He already told me what he was gonna be because he was the last one. He was the only one to bid last time.
Okay. Any pending bids?
Yes, and that's what I keep going on with that. You have the vacancy painting and cleaning contracts that are both out right now. They are slated to see bids back on.
I'm sorry, I'm unable to hear Mr. Williams, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. He on the Zoom.
Yeah, I know, I'm trying to find a microphone.
Just speak up a little bit. I think you should.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Mr. Dixon?
Yes, sir, that's better, thank you.
Okay. I have two other bids that are out, which is vacancy painting and cleaning. I've generated about 6 responses for each up until this point. I had a site visit for both today. One person showed up. I advertised in the paper and on the website. And I've checked some other agency supplier lists.
Did you get a call today?
Did.
All right.
Did. Also sent that solicitation. Actually, and it's not on these two like that, but that's lawn maintenance. I did receive a call today from a young lady about
For painting?
open contract, and sent her the solicitation. She said, hey, if I'm having trouble, can I call you and ask you for help? I said,
Mhm.
anybody who calls me and asks for help, you know, I help them. Yeah,
Right.
I can't tell you what to put on there, but I'll tell you how to do it.
Okay.
So and that bid closes on the 31st. So I'm real hopeful, optimistic about that one. Get a decent turnout on those.
Okay.
And that's
Anything
about all
else?
I got.
Any other questions, commissioners? All right.
Oh, yeah, one thing, that lawn maintenance thing, I will give a formal recommendation probably at the next meeting when there's enough people together to make a decision. I'll give a formal
We can make a
recommendation.
decision. We got everybody.
I don't have a recommendation yet.
I got
I'm gonna give you a
Okay.
formal
Work
recommendation.
session.
Make sure I put in there that, you know,
All right.
it's in the solicitation. We can terminate it at any point in time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. RFPs, updates, Mr. Jackson?
The due date is still June the 1st. I just been fielding calls with questions, answering questions on what they need to do to submit information.
Had they been filling them up, been getting in
I
response
think
back?
they'll kind of come last minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You have down here the MOU for Bible Way International?
Yes, you all should have received a copy of MOU.
Is it in our binders here?
It is.
Let me see. Okay, I got it. I want to look over this tonight at work session.
Yeah, we don't have to approve this tonight.
Well, this is to get them started, because they're gonna start, right after.
May
Memorial.
28th, May 29th.
Yeah, and this is just from May to June 30th.
Can we look over this and email him and do something so we can read this? Take our time to read this. It's in,
It's in the discussion item.
Good discussion.
Have you read it?
I've looked through it.
I started on, I think, can you send us a copy?
Emailed it to you and you suggested a couple changes and we added those revisions and sent it back out.
Have we dealt with
You had
that
to
before?
change, you had to changes to this MOU?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They were on.
we have, years ago.
Years ago.
But this one, it was approved last year budget, which
Right.
starts them off at the beginning of this year,
Okay.
at the end of the budget.
It's only for a 5-week purpose.
Yeah, right.
I made suggestions that the,
Staff be trained, the changes were maintain a staff to participant ratio of no greater than 1 staff for every 10 participants. To conduct background and drug screening testing on employees and volunteers, and all staff and volunteers to be current on their certification for first aid and CPR.
Yeah, I read those.
And this was, they accepted those with,
Yeah, they do that.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. We'll read this and,
yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem if those things are added unless you think there's something else in it that, I don't have a problem.
did she make those changes?
No, she had to make changes.
She already
does
had it in it.
She does it. I asked her, she does it, we just added it.
Yeah,
When I
but
was at the site visit, I was talking to Commissioner Book, and he asked us questions, I was still right there.
Okay.
He just added it in there. But she,
But you want those added in for our daycares or our program people?
I do, but to get her going.
And this,
Right.
this would just be for this one, but
Right.
you're gonna have a bunch of them
Maybe-
that would start July 1.
based on,
Say that again?
other people will have something different based on their scope of what they're trying to do.
The scope of their program.
Yeah,
But,
right.
but drug testing and back.
No, not that. No,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about
No,
ratio.
no, I just wanted, I understood you, I just wanted to put it here.
Okay.
Madam Chair, that's a
All right.
boilerplate.
We got legal, so
Okay. Say what now?
legal is the only one that's due, that was due.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, are you all comfortable with this?
Yeah. And Commissioners, are y'all all comfortable with this MOU for Bible Way International? Commissioner Dickinson?
Mr. Jackson, you good with it?
I'm comfortable.
Commissioner Dobson?
Yes.
All right.
Then I
Do we
make,
have to make a motion?
yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make,
You started.
yes, I'll go back to, but, I move that we, approve the MOU to be adopted, I guess signed by the chair, Madam Chair,
Second.
for Bible Way.
Right. All in favor, say aye. Opposers have the same. Opposers have the same. If no opposers, that motion carries.
We done to executive session.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't go over the stats for the police. She just put this in the police report. She didn't come tonight. She just put it in here.
I think she said she'll be at the work session.
Right. Yeah, okay. Ms. Dyer has an RFP that she wants to mention.
It'll only take 1 second.
Okay.
Do you need to step out from it?
Yeah, I did need to go to the bathroom.
Mr. Thompson, can you please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Going over there. Mr. Dodson.
The RFQ for legal services, which is just closed on Friday. We only got one response. I had it advertised in the newspaper, on the website, and on the CERT-NARA website. But we only got one response, so I just want to make everybody aware we don't have to do anything tonight, but I'm not really sure what to do with one response, except for I think we're okay with one response, but I just wanted to bring everybody's attention, and I've got multiple copies of these in my office if anybody.
How long was the RFP out there?
A month.
Y'all wanna run it again?
Do you think we'll get more responses?
I don't know.
Yeah, how many years are we?
2 years past.
No, past, you're saying having one?
The last contract expired in 2021.
Yes.
Okay, and the RFP is for how long? However long we decide?
It was right for 5 years.
I mean, I don't want to do it for 5, I didn't realize that. But
I think it's like 1 year with. Yes.
Okay.
For automatic.
Okay, all right then. That's, I mean, I'm good with that.
I mean, I'm not asking for a motion, I'm just saying that's.
Well,
I just want everybody to be
You're all
aware.
here,
We only
might as well
got,
get
we
it
got
now.
one.
Yeah, I don't
response
mind.
Friday.
I think especially if we're 2 years past having this done. And right now we're in the middle of so much stuff. I think we need that stability.
Right.
So I'll move that we, Pastor Dickerson, are you good with us moving to make a decision about this tonight, about the legal services?
Are we talking about moving it to another time?
No, my thing is we only got one response, and we're in the middle of quite a bit, and the response is the person who knows where all the bodies are, knows where everything is.
Yes, sir. I agree with you. I don't think it would be wise to change our attorney right now. We'll try it.
Yeah. Oh, Pastor. Hey, Commissioner Dobson, I'm gonna give you a call.
Is that your next calling, Commissioner Dobson? You spoke it into existence.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and vote on the legal services response to the RFP.
Okay.
And I move that we accept the I guess it's Ben Hartman or the Hunter McLean, Ben Hartman as our legal.
Wait a minute, let me ask this. If we rehire him again, what is the time frame? 1 year, or does it go
Well,
over, or
there
it's
don't have to
fine?
be a contract signed, so,
Right?
Yeah, it's 5 years with annual renewal. We can
Okay.
terminate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Entertain a motion.
Unless he put something in the contract that doesn't allow us to do that. That's why we got Commissioner Clinton. But
Johnson is making a motion.
He said we seconded it. I can get thoughts on it.
No, we didn't make it.
Yeah, well, I did. You interrupted me in mid-stream, but I make a motion that we, renew our current legal services with being Hart. Is it Hartwich or Hartman?
Hartman.
I got
And Johnson
confused.
second, you said?
It's Hunter
Okay.
McLean.
Hunter McLean,
Hunter McLean.
yeah. All in favor, say aye. Opposers have the same.
Ms. Curry, that was, you got that, right?
You got that,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
He walks out of the room for 1 minute. We can't even get a motion together.
All right, so we're gonna entertain to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session for legal and personnel matters.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same.
Yes. I just want to give you a message, but right now, the tag costs, Mr. Hartman asked me for it, so I'm gonna make sure you know that.
Okay.
Do you all want me to hang in?
Yeah, just go off and, then, we'll have